most of them conclude that the state and the authority is actually not a good thing. And I think it's one of the very rare corners of the world where majority of normal people that are just earning living wage come to conclusion that, well, maybe we can have a non-state entity, maybe some other type of organization that can be an alternative to a state and that can serve our purposes better.
What does Rojava mean to you?
Rojava, it's my homeland, it's my memories, it's my kids' future, it's my home. It's everything that's connected with your own home. And we're here to support them, to let the world know that Rojava is being attacked by Turkey. We're hope that America support us again because they were stopping supporting us after the fight for ISIS. 11,000 people were killed over there. They were fighting against the ISIS, and then America, they just stopped supporting. And without America's support, I don't think we can do a lot over there to save those people.
Excellent, thank you.
I wrote this poem when my daughter come to me, after my daughter come to me, and she stand beside me and ask me, Mom, is everything gonna be okay? I look at her eyes and I told her, with our support, one day, everything gonna be okay. So this is how I started. I will be the warrior fighting for love. Just tell me, my friend, when the butterfly goes, when they die. Now, while I'm kissing my kids, wishing them a good night, there are mothers who are waking up to a great pain in their souls. Now I'm sick, alone, trying to find a way out of this war, finding a way to the monster that wrestling in my chest, trying to win for love. For a good things remain on this unhappy planet. There is someone smiling to the gun pointed to his head. Someone who knows that death is not the end of the road. Now, while I let my soul sway around the candles, trying to find another key to help me understand this unfair world, there is someone opening his eyes to dark cell, trying to hear his children's lost love. Now, Holy God, while I'm light as a death, barefoot like a rain, naked as a god, the suffering of my fingers flow over the body of the war. There are some kids gathering through the trash, some others looking for warm arms. There is someone wishing that everything happening is just a nightmare. Now, while I'm kissing my kiss, There are too many mothers waking up to an unbearable breath, wishing to hold their children one more time, asking themselves, like me, like you, who's right, who's wrong, who's weak, who's strong. I will be a warrior fighting for love, for peace. Just tell me one more time, my friends, where those kids go when they die, where these mothers should bury their butterflies. How can they face the life? How they can stop crying, stop waiting for a miracle, for a friend like you falling from the sky? Yes, my friends, our scars are deep, like an old love in the heart of the God. But the death in honor of homeland is a wedding of happiness. That is why we're Kurdish warriors, we're Kurdish mothers, smiling to the death, bury our children with a lot of pain and dance. Thank you.
And a female, Rojava is woman, collaboration, that's a nice one. And he
What does Rojava mean to you?
Rojava means to me freedom, basically. So it's not building on a like a nation or like a. They are not trying to build a country, like a new borders. They are trying to build a freedom, like a real freedom, not like freedom of speech going on in the U.S. It's not really, but yeah, it means to me a lot, and also my home too. So I'm a Kurdish from northern Kurdistan, but West Kurdistan also my home too. So what's going on there right now? It's awful. It's an ethnic cleansing. It's they are just moving Kurdish people to there and then replace jihadis instead of them. So please stand with Kurdish people, with Rojava, and support them. Thank you so much.
Rojava means to me land of utopia. Rojava means women's liberation, women's empowerment. It means gender equality. It means direct democracy. It means social ecology that is committed to restoring lands that have been destroyed by monoculture, agriculture, and deforestation. And it means an alternative to the nation state, an alternative to capitalism.
Rojava is the heart of Kurdistan. If the Rojava collapses, I believe our future will be way back up to maybe, if not 50 years, maybe 100 more years. The United States, which one did it to Rojava, it was a disaster for us, and because we put a lot of hope to the Rojava to gain at least federation in that place, to get the power to other parts of Kurdistan, at least to get some freedom from Turkey, from Iran, and from for other people too. So Rojava, it was a center of our hope, and we try to save that center for the future other parts of Kurdistan.
Beautiful, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Can you repeat after me only a few words? بيجي كردستان بيجي برفضانا روجافا بيجي mean long leave and Rojava means west. It is what called Western Kurdistan. Located in North Syria, Kurdistan means the land of the Kurds, a geographical area inhabited by our people since time immemorial. The Kurds are the largest ethnic group in the world with no state. According to sources, Kurdistan has a population of 40 to 50 million people. It is around 175,000 square miles, roughly 2/3 the size of Texas. And they geographically divided between 4 countries: Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Syria. The Kurds founded and contributed in the construction of several civilizations since 2500 BC. Like the Hurrians in 2000 BC, where the archaeological finding of the capital city or Kesh remained beside Qamishlo in Rojava, the city I was brought up in. There was also the Mitannian civilization in 600 BC, where maybe some of you know, the said that Nefertiti, wife of Pharaoh Akhenaton, was the daughter of Mitannian emperor. The last Kurdish civilization before Christ was the Median civilization, which fell in the 6th century BC. The Sasanian civilization and empire was later founded and ruled from 224 to 651 AD. The archaeologists believe that the Kurds did not migrate from other areas. They are mentioned all through the ancient history under multiple names. Famous Greek historian and military commander Xenophon wrote when passing through the mountain of Kurdistan about the Kurds under the name Kardochian or Kardokh. In this book, which names 10,000s. Since the beginning of the Islamic era in the 7th century, the Kurds founded more than 20 emirates, some of which extended their rule for nearly 400 years, like Marwaniyin Emirate. Here we must mention an important contribution in Islamic history, which is the Kurds are the main founder of the Abbasid Caliphate in the 8th century. They also took control of the most of the Islamic emirates of the 11th and 12th century and established the Ayyubiyat, or they say Ayyubiyin in Arabic language, state in the majority of North Africa and west of Middle East, which was now exactly what they say Kurdistan is Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and actually can say west of Iran and Syria. The division of Kurdistan first took place in the middle of the 16th century between the Ottoman and Safavid Empire, with the Treaty of Zuhab, also called Treaty of Qasr Shirin. The second time was the last century between 1920 and 1925 in the hand of the British and French colonialists who left Kurdistan sovereignty to Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Syria within the Sykes-Picot Treaty in 1916. The Kurds over the past century have had many revolutions and uprisings against the authority of these countries for their national rights and the independence of Kurdistan. The Kurdish attack on the Turkish attack on Rojava right now, maybe you all heard about in the news, now is aiming to destroy the democracy of the Kurds in the Middle East, whom not only to the Kurdish people, but to the other groups such as the Christian, Yazidi, and Arab in the region were protected from the tyranny of occupying authorities of Kurdistan in the civilized society of equality. Thank you very much.
What does Rojava mean to you?
Rojava means democracy, people's revolution, human rights, human values. And Rojava means standing for those values in time of difficulties. Even when you're alone, even when you're fighting for evil, against evil, we still value those principles, human values, democracy, environment, feminism. Those are the human values that we cherish, and that means Rojava.
These people need help. Congress has spoken up. Congress should do more. But ultimately, Trump needs to stop his reckless policies that are putting all these people's lives in danger, because this isn't just about what's going on there. This is about what we can learn from what they've aspired to. Like their gains for democracy, their gains for pluralism in their communities, for ecology, for all of these things that Rojava and this part of the world is focused on. We need to learn from them. We need to have their backs to up our own standards for our values. And if we can't even stand up for a smaller part of those values, then it's a tragedy.
What's happening in Rojava today? So Rojava is located in northeastern Syria, a place of several million Kurds, other minorities, Yazidis, Christians, other communities are living there. And they were able to defend the area after ISIS made the advance in 2011 and beyond, and they were able to stop ISIS advance. They also were able to establish a system, administrative system, that protected the civilians and stopped ISIS advance against the Kurds and minorities, but also against everybody else. Looking back, ISIS was expanding at unbelievable, with unbelievable power. They were taking towns after town. They were killing, as you know, thousands of people, including about 7,000 of our own people, the Yazidi community, if you heard of the Yazidi community. So in 2014, about 7,000 were killed, and about 5,000 were killed, and about 7,000 were taken as sex slaves and as captives. The women and girls were used as sex slaves, and the children were taken as well. So it was a genocide by all means. And these days, I remember, I was here in Houston, so we were trying to get help from the State Department, from the US government, from anyone who would go and stop ISIS advance on Sinjar. So the group that really went into Sinjar was the YPG, along with other groups. They went into Sinjar, and the night of the 7th of August, 22 YPG fighters were killed, stopping ISIS advance and also opening a safe passage. That safe passage, I still have the maps. So my geophysicist, I left my career, and went back to help. So I still have the maps of the situation happened. The YPG opened that safe passage and literally saved, along with the US airstrike. So the US, under Obama administration, went into Sinjar and they conducted airstrikes, which, along with the support that came from YPG on the ground, and also along with about 3,000 Yazidi volunteers who carried up weapons, ISIS advance was stopped, and also a safe passage was opened, which ultimately saved about 150,000 lives. 150,000 people were on Mount Sinjar. They would have been killed, no question, or they would be taken captive, or they would have, died out of thirst or without food. And a lot of children and women and elderly died actually in these places because they didn't have access to humanitarian aid. So I wanted to come here and show support for Rojava because of particularly their stand for the Yazidi community and for other minorities on Rojava, and without, I think, YPG and SDF, which is also the Arab fighters who are fighting with the Kurdish fighters and other minorities fighters, it's a collective force in northern Syria, and it's working with the U.S. government. It's a legitimate group that work with the U.S. government. Without that group working, ultimately we would have had ISIS taking more lands, and there will be no defeat for ISIS, and there will be more massacres and more genocide that would have taken place. I think it's really important that we show support for Rojava, and this is a very difficult time. It's a very difficult time for Rojava. So Turkey came in, if you've been following the news, they came in, they literally, this is the first ethnic cleansing, I think, that happens with kind of approval, pre-approval from states, from the United Nations, from everybody. From NATO. A country comes in and remove the original people. So this includes all the minorities and all the Kurds along the Syrian-Turkish border. They want to remove people out, and they want to bring in the Syrian refugees who are not from these areas. The Syrian refugees are, that's a very human cause. It's very close to my heart and probably close to everybody's heart. We want the Syrians to be able to go back to their homes, but we don't want the Syrians to be going back to somebody else's home. We don't want anybody to be going to somebody else's home. I think everyone has the right to go back, and for you to go and remove 500,000 Kurds and Yazidis, Christians, other minorities along the border, to bring in others, and for me, when the world says nothing about it, to me as a human being first, that crushes me. That crushes me. We are, 21st century, where entire communities have been removed, with their roots from their homeland, and others have been placed in. And the politics and the geopolitics are so complex, where people like us almost have no power. I left my work as a geophysicist, going back to doing this advocacy, and I saw this whole world of, I would call it a lot of nonsense, because truly, I think politics should work with human values, because we are humans, right? And politics should be integrated part to who we are. But the reality is not. The reality is not. I think the geopolitics and the politics that we see in everyday's life, shows that the human element of it is very small compared to the interest of groups, interest of countries, weapons. A lot of factors are much more important than human beings. So. I would like you to show support for Rojava. We don't want, so what we want, basically, we don't want Turkey to come in and remove people from their homeland. I think not just us, I think no one on this planet should accept people to be removed from their homes when others would be brought into their homes. So that's why I'm here tonight, and I think that's why every one of you should try to do something about it, and the minimum you can do is to write to your Congress, to write Congress members, to your Senates, and to ask them to stop this Turkish plan against the Rojava. I think the other thing is, after all the sacrifices of these people, 11,000 SDF forces have been killed, 22,000 have been wounded, defending all of us. If they didn't make that sacrifice, today ISIS would have been bombing New York again. I remember we were in New York. I remember visiting family of a friend. And that very same day, there was an ISIS attack on the same street. And thankfully, we were not walking down that road that day. But that was an attack on New York. And there would be an attack on every other place. And if ISIS was still a powerful organization, this is a terrible group with absolutely no values. And the YPG, SDF, both Arab, Kurdish, and other minorities, all of them came in under SDF. and they liberated, these areas, they protected it, they destroyed ISIS. So we have moral responsibility to establish a system in northeastern Syria. I think it will be very good for Syria, because Syrians also, as a people, if you think about Syrians, more than 5 million Syrians are still displaced without homes. About 500,000 have been killed in Syria. 500,000, 600,000 people have been killed in Syria. Hundreds of thousands of people have been, wounded, and people, more than 5 million, are displaced. So Syrians also deserve a country so they can basically live in peace altogether. So I think the U.S. has a very unique position, and the U.S. should not just leave the northeastern Syria in this fashion. The U.S. went in, and they should stay there until a system is established in Syria, a peaceful Syria for all Syrians, Kurds, Arabs, other minorities, for everyone. So, I would ask you to be involved and to write to your Congress members. The Congress seems to be very active in this, and we need to be practical. In addition to just showing support, being practical, I think writing to the Congress will make a difference. And we want to maintain the system in northeastern Syria, and also make sure that Turkey will not take more land. They've already taken Afrin, they've already taken Tel Abyad and Tel Isa, which are two significant areas. What they want basically is to take all the Kurdish territories, and they will do it if people don't stand up to them. They will do it, and it helps. I've done advocacy for 6 years now, and even the tweets that you write, they do help. Yeah, very small help. But I think when you add the small helps of individuals, that becomes very significant, and it does make change and make impact. And thank you all for being here. Thank you for organizing this. It's really good to be here. Thank you.
All the different ethno-religious minority groups and the majority group itself, all the different groups need to live in peace, preserving their own way of being. And I believe this kind of approach requires a revolution in people's mind in the Middle East. Once we come close to that revolution in people's mind across the peoples of the Middle East, then we will be close to that. And until then, I will keep dreaming about it.